Java exception handling. Let's see what is an exception. Exception is a powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors so that normal flow of the application can be maintained. If you do not handle the exception, the program will be terminated. So if we do not handle the exception, program will be terminated. So we have to handle it. So there are three variants: errors, unchecked exceptions, and checked exceptions. So first one, errors. You might have seen things such as out of memory error. So that's a very common one. So these are not exceptions at all, but problems that arise beyond the control of the user or the program. So these are the problems that arise beyond the control of the user or the program. So those are beyond the control of the user or the programmer, and the examples are out of memory error, virtual machine error. And you might have seen stack overflow errors as well. Unchecked exceptions. An unchecked exception is an exception that occurs at the time of execution. So time of execution. Example is arithmetic exception, null point exception. And next we talk about checked exceptions. A checked exception is an exception that occurs at the compile time. These are also called as compile time exceptions. IO exception is an example for that, SQL exception. So once again, the three variants of we discuss here: errors, unchecked exceptions, checked exceptions. So let's see the class hierarchy in Java. So object, and we have throwable, and it's divided to two parts: errors and exceptions. So we discuss about errors, and also we have an understanding what exceptions, runtime exceptions. So exceptions again divided to runtime exceptions and other exceptions. So let's see how we can handle exceptions in Java. We can use try-catch block to handle exceptions. So try-catch blocks are used to handle exceptions. Code that might cause an exception can be surrounded by a try block followed by a catch block. So inside the catch block we have code which needs to run when exception occurs. And after the catch block we have the finally block. Finally this part will run. Whether there's an exception or not, this part will run. The code inside the catch block will only run if there's an exception in the try block. The code inside the try block as an exception, then the catch block will be executed, and also the finally. So if there are no issue in the code in the try block, the catch block will not be executed, but final block will be executed. Exception handling in Java, continuing. Catch or finally should be there when there is try. Final block is optional. It's an important point. Final block is optional. And also we can have multiple catch blocks. We can have multiple catch blocks. Exception propagation. From the main method, function 1, function 2. if exception is triggered in function 2, it goes to function and 1 and to the main method. JVM checks where exception is handled from top to bottom. Throw versus throw keyword. So you have to be careful. The first one is throws versus throw. Throws exception can throw using a throw keyword. Calling method have to handle the exception by using the try catch. We throw an exception as an object. Let's try to see an example of what we have discussed up to now. If the exception is not handled, the program will be terminated. So this is an example of throws keyword. So we have a class called throwCheck and we create an object of it and we call for the function where exception throws inside the try block, and we use the catch block to handle it. So let's examine the method after that. FUNC throws interrupted exception. So it's a signal that this method can throw interrupted exception, that is shown with the throws clause. So public void FUNC open bracket close bracket throws interrupted exception, and inside the if condition you can see that we are creating an exception using the throw keyword. So we are creating an exception object using the throw keyword. So we use throw keyword to create an exception. Summary: exception handling is to avoid erroneous program termination, runtime and compilation time errors, exceptions, try catch finally, throw versus throws. Let's see an example of it. Program termination. So we discussed that program can be terminated if exceptions are not handled. We have termination demo and we divide the numbers like this: 10 divided by I. First I is 5, next we have a loop, so it will be 4, something like that. So if we iterate this loop, you can see test values from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and after the loop. If we comment that line, 10 will be divided by 0 at the end. The 10 will be divided by 0 and it will throw an exception because it's infinity. So if we run this, you can see the program is terminated. java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. After the loop is not printed because at this line an exception is thrown and after that the code is not executed.